Revealed, a paralyzed millionaire's daughter discovers an incredible secret with her maid's touch. Sarah stood in the vast kitchen of her family's estate, the air thick with the scent of basil and garlic simmering on the stove. She brushed her fingers along the marble countertop, a cold reminder of her gilded cage. This was her father's domain, an empire built on culinary excellence that now felt more like a shackle. Chaos reigned within her, a tempest of expectations and resentment swirling beneath the surface of her pristine life. The walls echoed with the legacy of her paralyzed father's once dominant culinary empire, leaving her to navigate the sterile hallways of greatness alone. "Sarah?" Rosa's voice broke through her reverie. The family maid was a beacon of warmth amidst the chill of expectations, standing confidently beside the stove, her hands expertly chopping vegetables, her dreams unconfined by the weight of privilege. The way they bonded over cooking, sharing laughter against the backdrop of simmering pots, offered a fleeting escape for Sarah. As she watched Rosa come to life in her element, a twinge of envy sparked within her, burning hotter every day. She craved that passion, but uncertainty held her hostage. Could a daughter of privilege carve her own path in the shadows of her father's legacy? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Their bond deepened one evening when Rosa discovered a dusty folder buried in a cabinet. Sarah's late mother's unpublished recipes, each page an echo of flavors that could unlock hidden treasures. A handwritten letter hinted at a family inheritance intertwined with culinary traditions long forgotten. For a moment, both women felt the stirrings of hope, an idea igniting between them, to recreate these recipes, to host a pop-up restaurant. The thought electrified Sarah. It was an act of rebellion against familial fealty, a claim to her own identity. But doubt clawed at her. Was she strong enough to face the looming specter of her family's disdain? Yet with every new day, as excitement turned into planning, she encountered criticism just as quickly as praise. A family rival emerged, an old friend of her father's, eager to reclaim the legacy for himself. Rumors began to weave through the elite circles about the maid and the millionaire's daughter, tall tales of class differences threatening to suffocate their aspirations. Their dreams transformed into weights tied to their ankles, dragging them into depths of self-doubt. The whispers were relentless, tearing at her sense of self-worth. In the dim light of the kitchen, surrounded by bubbling pots and the reminders of what she had lost, Sarah's heart raced with fear. The stakes of their venture were rising. Would they ever be seen as equals? The anticipation of judgment loomed large, stifling her every desire. Just when she thought they had a chance, a bitter letter landed in Rosa's hands, an anonymous warning laced with venomous words about their place, reeking of disdain. As tension thickened, Sarah was stuck at a crossroads. Could she embrace this partnership with Rosa, rise against societal biases, and redefine her legacy? Panic surged within her, muscles tensing as she faced her family's expectations. As she stared at the array of dishes they planned to showcase, uncertainty lurked in the corners of her mind. Would they champion their dreams, or would fear bind her back to the shadows of privilege, silencing her quest for identity? The moment of decision drew closer, leaving only questions in its wake. In the days that followed the arrival of the ominous letter, Sarah found herself spiraling deeper into an internal battle. The kitchen, once a sanctuary filled with vibrant smells and majestic potential, began to feel like a minefield. Each clattering pot and sizzling pan echoed her anxiety, a cacophony of self-doubt harmonizing with external judgment. The crucible of their culinary dreams was becoming more daunting, as whispers from relatives and acquaintances alike clouded her resolve. Rosa noticed the change in Sarah, the way her laughter faded and her eyes dimmed. "Are you all right?" she asked tentatively one afternoon, her hands steady as they kneaded dough, apparently unaffected by the weight of their aspirations. The stark contrast between them reminded Sarah of the chasm separating their worlds. Rosa's ability to exist wholly in the moment turned Sarah's thoughts inward, forcing her to confront an unsettling truth: fear was becoming her master. "I don't know if we can actually do this," Sarah admitted, her voice barely rising above the sound of dough being pressed. The admission felt like a confession, but also a tether to reality. Rosa paused, her hands silent, as she weighed the impact of Sarah's words. "Then let us find a way together," Rosa urged. "This is more than just recipes, it's about our stories, your story." The word struck Sarah. For too long, she had been anchored to a perception of herself crafted by others, the paralyzed millionaire's daughter, a mere reflection of her father's legacy. What could she offer that wasn't already defined by her lineage? The thought gnawed at her, dismantling any sense of confidence. Determined not to let fear win, she hatched a plan. The culinary world was evolving, with values shifting passionately towards innovation and authenticity. Perhaps they could carve a niche that celebrated the rich history of her family recipes while infusing them with their own modern spins. Instead of hiding in fear, Sarah could channel her energy into creating something groundbreaking. "Rosa," she began, her voice steadier as excitement flickered anew within her. "What if we used your creativity to reinvent these dishes? Let us show them not just who we are, but what we can create together." Rosa's eyes sparkled with understanding. A partnership formed not through obligation but through shared artistry. They soon spent hours reinterpreting each recipe, blending traditional elements with fresh approaches. There was laughter again, a whimsical dance of flavors in the air as they experimented with spices and garnishes, rediscovering joy amidst the chaos of others' judgments. However, the lurking presence of the rival hung in the air like a dark cloud, his cunning words echoing in Sarah's mind. In elite circles, she was not just a daughter, she was a target. Taking small steps towards their pop-up became a game of strategy, more than culinary prowess. It demanded an undercurrent of resilience that Sarah had yet to fully embrace. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah stood alone in the kitchen, the shadows stretching across the granite countertops. She scrutinized their progress: sauces meticulously prepared, garnishing techniques practiced, and an inviting menu lovingly crafted. Yet, doubt was a shadow that refused to fade. Could she truly rely on Rosa to navigate this terrain? A bitter whisper echoed from her past, a voice tainted by privilege and entitlement. Just then, a knock at the door broke her concentration, a signal almost as if the universe wanted to challenge her once again. Who could that be? She murmured, heart racing. Did she expect the rival, bringing more bad news? Or was it someone offering support? She opened the door, breath hitching in her throat. Before her stood a familiar figure, someone from her father's world, poised to either crush her dreams further or ignite a new spark of opportunity. Would this twist bring clarity to her path, or deepen the web of uncertainty she was trying so hard to escape? The moment hung heavily in the air, filled with tension that demanded resolution. The figure at the door stepped forward, his face a mask of polite curiosity, yet his presence felt suffocating. Henry, an old acquaintance tangled in the fabric of her father's meticulous empire, stood there looking perfectly polished, as if he'd just emerged unscathed from a boardroom negotiation. Behind his familiar smile sat the weight of expectations, both his and her father's, poised to descend upon Sarah. "Sarah," he greeted, his voice a smooth concoction of concern and condescension. "I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd check in on the new culinary venture. Your father mentioned that you were reshaping the family legacy. Quite ambitious of you." Her stomach nodded. The expectation again, the subtle inference that she should not only know her place but thrive within established boundaries. Ambition? Wasn't that what had driven her to this fragile moment? Yet, here he was, dredging her insecurities and manipulating the very dream that she had begun to reclaim. "What brings you here, Henry?" Sarah asked, masking her vulnerability with a brittle veneer of politeness. The kitchen felt smaller now, the shadows closing in like accusing fingers. "Just wanted to see how the little project of yours is going." The tone struck her as paternalistic, yet beneath it was the sharp hint of disdain. You know, the culinary world can be quite unforgiving. The weight of his words pressed down on her. Here was a man who thrived in the glare of wealth, yet he was entirely out of touch with her battles. The dishes they had been crafting with love and purpose suddenly felt trite in the face of his judgment. Would he even recognize the beauty they were trying to create, or would it all dissolve into dust beneath his cruel scrutiny? Rosa emerged from the kitchen, her hands still dusted with flour, a whirlwind of creativity and authenticity. The contrast between them was stark. "Hi, I'm Rosa," she introduced cheerfully, exuding the vibrancy that defined their work together. Henry's eyebrow shot up, a flicker of surprise mixed with something darker. "Ah, the partner in crime. How quaint." Something ignited in Sarah's chest. She wasn't just a millionaire's daughter standing on the precipice of failure. She was a collaborator, an artist forging her own identity through modern interpretations of tradition. If he couldn't see that, then the emerging tension was not hers to shoulder. "Actually, Rosa and I have been working on revitalizing my family's recipes," Sarah injected, determination bleeding through her words. "We're not interested in just following old paths. We want to create something real." Henry's smirk faltered. Interesting approach. He seemed to recalibrate, assessing their potential with new scrutiny. "Just remember, those kinds of aspirations come at a cost. The culinary elite can be selective." She felt the chains tightening around her future. The culinary elite, a ghost she had tried to shed. Fear gripped her like a vice, yet beneath it smoldered a fire ignited by Rosa's faith and her own nascent resolve. "I appreciate your concern, but I have to find my own way," she said, each word a resolute step away from fear. "Our menu isn't about your expectations, it's about expressing who we are." The air crackled with tension. Surprise etched into Henry's features, blurred into something resembling respect. Was it possible she had caught him off guard? "Then I hope you have what it takes," he replied, a hint of a challenge in his tone. "I'll be watching." As he turned to leave, Sarah's heart raced. She had just faced a former pillar of her father's world and emerged unscathed. There was a shift within her, a realization that she could shape her own narrative rather than be a bystander in her father's legacy. After he left, the weight of the encounter hung heavy, yet a newfound clarity emerged. What if that very challenge became the fire for her drive? A mechanism to transform her fear into creative passion. "Are you ready for what's next?" Rosa's voice broke through the tumult of her thoughts, a gentle reminder of their shared mission. In that moment, Sarah felt the galaxy of possibilities brighten around her. The doubts lingered, but now they were simply shadows to navigate and negotiate. "More than ever," she replied, her gaze confident and unwavering. As they returned to their preparations, a flicker of excitement coursed through her veins. How would this next chapter unfold? However, beneath this newfound strength, a nagging concern lurked. Henry would not be the last obstacle she faced. The rival she had tried to ignore loomed closer in her mind, threatening to dismantle everything she had built. Sarah knew the time had come to brace herself, not only to create but to confront the echoes of her past. Was she ready to face the ghosts that danced along the edges of her ambition? Sarah stood in a haze of self-discovery, the aroma of spices from the simmering pots mingling with the crispness of uncertainty in the air. Rosa was busy organizing the ingredients on the counter, their preparations underway, but Sarah's mind wandered to the exchange with Henry. The churning tumult of feelings, fear, exhilaration, and determination seemed to dance like the steam rising from the stove. What did it mean to be her father's daughter in this venture? Every moment spent fulfilling someone else's expectations felt like shackles clinking as she moved. She had seized the reins, yet the specter of the culinary elite loomed large, an unforgiving audience poised to criticize. Despite the encouragement accompanying her resolve, the reality of her situation gnawed at her, a predator ready to pounce at any slip. "Sarah? You're quiet today," Rosa's cheerful voice sliced through her thoughts like a sharp knife, returning her to the present. "I'm just thinking about what Henry said." Do you think we can really carve out our space in this industry? Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper, filled with vulnerability she wished to conceal. Rosa leaned against the counter with hands akimbo, her flour-dusted apron a badge of honor that made Sarah envious. Of course. I mean, look what we've already created together. You just need to trust your instincts and keep pushing. Trust. The word hung in the air, full of weight and possibility. Sarah had to navigate the chasm between where she was and where she envisioned herself, an accomplished chef with a unique approach rather than a relic of her ancestry. What if it flops? What if we're not what they're looking for? The self-doubt bubbled over, threatening to ruin the excitement brewing in the kitchen. Every great venture carries a risk. But I believe in what we're doing. And maybe that's enough for us to succeed, replied Rosa, her conviction unwavering. In that moment, an idea surged within her. What if she documented their journey, not just their culinary creations but also the struggle? A blog, a social media presence, something that would allow them to share their honest experiences and culinary adventures. Maybe transparency could cut through the fog of expectations, making them relatable, tangible. Let us record everything, she said suddenly, her heart racing at the suggestion. Let us show our process, our struggles, our triumphs. We can give people a glimpse into our world. Rosa's eyes lit up. That's brilliant. We can tie it into the meals we prepare. Authenticity is what people crave today. It's relatable and it could set us apart. Sarah felt a rush of exhilaration, the chains of fear slowly loosening their grip. They began to formulate ideas, brainstorming concepts and culinary techniques that would not only showcase their skills but also step beyond the confines of Henry's judgment. Excitement surged as they animatedly worked together, crafting a vision for the future that neither of them initially dared to imagine just hours before, but as the hours passed and their aspirations took shape, Sarah couldn't ignore the disquiet brewing within her about those dismissive whispers of the culinary elite. The images of her rival, looming ever closer to their progress, slithered into her thoughts. Competition was fierce, and she needed to confront the ghosts from her past, the lingering doubts and unacknowledged fears that threatened to derail her newfound purpose. That night, the shadows in the kitchen seemed to whisper caution, daring her to confront her anxieties. The dark corners of her mind filled with what-ifs, ruminating on whether they had what it took. She raised her chopping knife and struck down steadily against the chopping board, feeling the rhythm of purpose forge through her. Each slice was a step forward, a rhythm signaling her determination to slice through the uncertainty, no matter how jagged the path ahead might be. Yet, in a quiet heartbeat of reflection, she knew this was only the beginning. Was she truly ready to face the rival whose shadow danced ever closer? Sarah's heart thumped an urgent beat. Every decision would shape her legacy, and she wouldn't let it slip through her fingers. The bright kitchen felt electric with potential, yet a darker truth lingered. For their aspirations to be realized, she needed to learn how to fight back against not just the external pressures, but the internal fears as well. The time had come for Sarah to face not just Henry's skepticism, but the very essence of her ambition. Would she rise to challenge them both? The morning sunlight filtered through the window, illuminating the kitchen as Sarah stood at the counter, surrounded by fresh produce. The vibrant colors and earthy scents filled her with a sense of possibility, yet the weight of her self-doubt lingered like an unwelcome guest. She had a plan to share their culinary journey online, to give authenticity a voice, but now the noise of hesitation clouded her resolve. She took a deep breath and took out her phone, staring at the blank screen filled with potential yet echoing with silence. What would she say? How could she possibly convey her excitement without exposing her vulnerabilities and fears? Each tap seemed monumental, every word a potential misstep. Are you going to stand there all morning, or are you ready to cook? Rosa's teasing voice cut through the fog. She was vibrant and alive, her confidence a beacon in the kitchen where Sarah felt adrift. I want to start our blog today, Sarah replied, her voice firm yet laced with uncertainty. But I need to know what to say, how to present us. I don't want to sound like I'm trying to be something I'm not. Rosa stepped closer, her hands resting on her hips. You are not just what you've learned or who you're expected to be. You're Sarah, and that's what this is about. Be bold. Share your story, your passion for food. It's all valid. Rosa's words pricked something inside her, a longing to shed the skin of expectation and emerge as a new version of herself, unhindered by the chains of her lineage. You're right, she said, her voice warming with determination. Maybe it's not just about the food, it's about who we are as we create it. Emboldened, she typed the first few lines, carefully weaving her vision and aspirations. But then the specter of Henry loomed large in her mind again, distracting her with self-doubt. What would he think? Would he dismiss her attempts, trivialize her work? The thought made her fingers hesitate above the screen. Just push through. Rosa urged from behind her, as if sensing the internal battle raging. You can't let him define your success. This is yours and mine. We're going to redefine what it means to be a chef. With a renewed surge of energy, Sarah began typing with resolve, pouring out her thoughts on the difficulties, the frenetic joy of experimentation, and the pain of competition. She opened her heart as she wrote, each word granting her a little more freedom. This wasn't just about cooking or family legacies, it encompassed her struggle for authenticity against the overbearing influence of expectation. As they prepared the ingredients, Sarah's thoughts drifted to their first real entry. The concept of sharing their trials and tribulations resonated deeply within her. She considered the moments of failure that shaped her resilience. Would their honesty resonate with others? Could sharing the truth of their culinary world inspire someone else lost in the shadows? Rosa hummed cheerfully, but Sarah caught a glimpse of the fear that also lingered beneath her friend's reassuring demeanor. They were both treading uncharted waters, and the reality of sharing personal struggles was daunting. What if no one cares? She asked more to herself than Rosa. Rosa glanced at her, lip twitching with a wry smile. What if they do? What if your words create a connection that you never anticipated? This is personal. That's where the magic lies. Magic. The word sparked something inside Sarah, an alchemist's spark coaxing her creation to life. Perhaps this was more than just a blog. It was an invitation for others to join them as they navigated the stormy seas of culinary passion. Suddenly, a determined thought solidified in her mind. For honesty to break barriers, they had to let go of the polished facade of perfection often associated with culinary artistry. They had to embrace the chaos, the realness of their pursuit. Their authentic narrative could be the bridge to connection, rather than just a showcase of culinary finesse. As the sun dipped below the horizon, illuminating the kitchen with soft hues, Sarah felt invigorated as if an internal dam had burst. Their culinary journey wasn't merely about the food, it was a brave exploration of identity, friendship, and ambition, but in the back of her mind, the rival's shadow loomed, whispering of challenges yet to come. Each step forward felt both exhilarating and dangerous, yet undeniable. She had to be prepared to face the judgment waiting for her, not just from others but from herself as well. Determined, Sarah finished her first entry with a sense of purpose. But as she tucked away her phone, the realization dawned, facing Henry and his influence would be the most crucial test of all. Would she rise and meet the challenge head-on, finding power in her voice? Tomorrow would mark the next step in confronting not just her rivals but the momentum she had begun to create. Would it be enough to courageously step into the spotlight? The following morning felt different, charged with a strange combination of excitement and dread. As dawn crept into the kitchen, inviting rays of light danced across the countertops, intensifying the myriad colors of fruits and vegetables. The air was thick with anticipation as Sarah prepared for a day that could define her fate. Before engaging with the chaotic world of her culinary blog, she needed to confront the looming specter of insecurity personified by Henry. His voice echoed in her mind, reminding her of every criticism, every belittling comment that rocked her confidence. It was essential to adopt her new narrative, but the thought of revisiting their past unsettled her. Rosa shuffled in, breaking Sarah's reverie with a cheery grin. Ready for our first real video? The enthusiasm radiating from her friend sparked a flicker of determination within Sarah. Yeah, but Henry, the name rolled off her tongue like a heavy stone. Forget him for a moment. Why don't we focus on what we love? Rosa suggested warmly. We're here to explore and share our journey, not to impress him. Sarah clutched a carrot, envisioning it as a metaphor, crisp, vibrant, full of potential. Okay, let us keep it real. I want our followers to see the genuine process. This revelation was liberating. The willingness to embrace her journey and all the messiness it entailed served as an antidote to her fear. What do you think? Should we start with a fundamental dish, one that represents us? She pondered aloud, the words spilling from her. Rosa's eyes twinkled. How about something that tells our story? Maybe a fusion dish that highlights both of our backgrounds? Uncertainty still loomed, but even in their collaboration, the excitement bubbled back up. They had shared countless meals and laughter. Why not present that authenticity through their culinary explorations? As they debated ingredients and methods, Sarah's heart raced. The prospect of being vulnerable in front of an audience, a part of her cringed at the idea, but another part relished in it. What if this became a space where others felt inspired to share their stories? The thought carried her forward as they pressed on in their preparations. Hours later, standing in front of the camera, Sarah felt her nerves stretch thin. Rosa positioned the phone while Sarah adjusted her apron, taking a moment to steady her breathing. She could almost hear Henry's condescending tone in her ear, undermining her attempts. Just be you, Rosa whispered, sensing her mounting anxiety. Share your joy. With the red recording light blinking on, Sarah took a deep breath, tapping into her passion for cooking. Hi everyone. Today we're cooking. The words started flowing, and she felt her burdens beginning to lift, if only a little. In the midst of mixing, slicing, and tasting, Sarah discovered something remarkable. Her love for food fueled a desire to connect. Each element she shared reflected her journey toward authenticity. She highlighted not just technique but the emotions behind each dish, encouraging viewers to embrace their culinary mishaps as learning moments. Yet as they filmed a particularly humorous mishap, Rosa accidentally tossing flour everywhere, laughter rang out, but Sarah's internal narrative shifted. A pang of vulnerability crept up. Would they ridicule her, or worse, would they think she was merely imitating well-known chefs? Sarah. This is our reality. Embrace it. Rosa laughed, and Sarah caught the truth in her friend's words. As the day ebbed away, Sarah uploaded their video, heart racing with a mix of anticipation and fear. Would their authenticity draw people in? Could it push past the critiques she anticipated? Even in the quiet of the evening, as they savored their dish while reviewing their footage, doubt still nestled somewhere deep within. But there was an unmistakable fire ignited within her about the direction she and Rosa were heading. Tomorrow could be the start of something entirely new, or it could be another blow. The course of her personal and professional development depended on how she would confront the consequences of revealing her true self. Was she truly prepared to face the scrutiny and the judgments? The thought of disconnected voices filled with opinions collided with her growing realization: her journey was uniquely valuable. So, as she turned off the camera, she steeled herself, knowing one thing: it was time to confront Henry, to reclaim her narrative and accept the risks of vulnerability, regardless of the outcome. But would he recognize the changes she was forging, or would the encounter dissolve her hard-earned courage, plunging her back into self-doubt? The sun rose anew, infusing the kitchen with optimism as Sarah contemplated her next steps. The previous day had been an unexpected rush of exhilarating freedom where she felt a glimmer of who she could be. Yet, lingering on the periphery was the daunting specter of facing Henry. Despite the inspiring backdrop of her budding blog, his shadow loomed just as large, a reminder of her past hesitations. Through a whirlwind of thoughts, Sarah fired up her laptop, watching the view count on their video climb steadily with each refresh, each number a small victory. The process of creation had been transformative, but the concern nipping at her heels was real. Would Henry dismiss her endeavors the same way he dismissed her dreams? Her confidence began to waver under the weight of that question, but a flicker of resolve sparked within her. This was her chance to rewrite her story. With determination, she crafted a plan to confront Henry. The anticipation pulsed through her veins, each heartbeat echoing her wish to be heard, valued for exactly who she was. She opened a new document on her laptop, the blank page taunting her like a challenge. The words began flowing, an outline of her conversation, a mental rehearsal of the points she needed to articulate. She would discuss her new goals, her blog, the excitement of cooking, and, most importantly, how stepping into her authentic self had changed the game for her. Yet as masterpieces often begin, the blankness gave way to a well of fear. What if he laughs, seized her thoughts, the familiar pit of dread churned in her stomach. Often, fear tried to incapacitate her ambitions, but she recognized this dance a battle of wits between her past and potential. She had to embrace it or let it drown her initiative once again. This time, something mighty stirred inside her, a firm belief that she no longer had to be a prisoner of his doubts. With every passage of her outline, clarity replaced confusion, and an invigorating sense of purpose permeated her existence. Writing about her new experiences reignited her enthusiasm, forcing her to confront not just Henry but also herself. Each phrase forced her to acknowledge her worth beyond critiques. Later, seeking the comfort of familiarity, Sarah gathered a selection of ingredients for their next video. Her hands moved as if choreographed by her newfound sense of purpose, slicing through vegetables, measuring out spices, with Rosa humming beside her, totally appreciative of Sarah's shift. The kitchen was alive with color and energy, a visual representation of her internal transformation. Let's aim for 2 videos this week, Rosa suggested, enthusiasm radiating through the air. Sarah nodded, a growing smile playing on her lips. The prospect of sharing more of herself reignited a yearning for connection, a simple truth that was readily becoming the heartbeat of her journey. Once more, they set up the camera, and this time Sarah was unfazed. She launched straight into their theme, passionately explaining why each ingredient mattered not only to the dish but to her own story. The energy was infectious as they joked and bantered, welcoming the chaos that came with trying to cook and film simultaneously. Genuine moments emerged from the sometimes disastrous but heartfelt discoveries they made. After the camera turned off, they collapsed into giggles, letting the laughter wash over them like a bomb. Reviewing the footage, Sarah realized how easy it had become to embrace herself fully, flaws and all. Perhaps she wasn't just challenging Henry anymore, she was finding freedom in her vulnerability. Maybe, just maybe, this journey could help others see that their narratives were just as worthy. As she prepared for her visit with Henry, Sarah felt an intense wrestling in her chest, her mixed emotions urging her forward. Would she be able to present the new Sarah with courage? Would she allow Henry to see the woman who had begun to redefine herself? The once familiar fear of his judgment turned into a quiet acknowledgement of her own strength. Tomorrow would be the moment of truth, a confrontation not just with Henry but with the parts of herself that still hyperventilated at the thought of rejection. An unexpected thought struck her with clarity. This moment was about liberation, about reclaiming her narrative. And as she pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders, her resolve solidified. The time had come to face not just Henry but the pervasive insecurities that had shadowed her for far too long. Would she emerge unscathed and emboldened, or would doubt grip her once more and lead her astray? The sun filtered through the translucent curtains, casting a warm glow over the room as Sarah rose, feeling the weight of the day heavy on her shoulders. The moment had arrived, an impending confrontation with Henry, which echoed like a drum in her ears, relentless and insistent. She paced her small kitchen, each step a reaffirmation of who she intended to be. Thinking through her mental outline, she mentally rehearsed her key points once again. The clarity she'd found while writing fueled her determination, but doubt still managed to creep in. What if he doesn't get it? Was a whisper of insecurity tickling her thoughts. Pushing the worries aside, she donned her favorite apron, the fabric embodying resilience. It felt surprisingly empowering, like a suit of armor, reminding her of the growth she had experienced. As she chopped vegetables for lunch, the rhythmic sound of the knife against the cutting board served as a metronome, guiding her thoughts toward focus. Cooking had become therapy. This was her haven, that nurturing energy continued to coalesce as she prepped food for Rosa's arrival. The invisible weight of Henry's looming presence shifted slightly as anticipation mounted for their chat. It wasn't just about proving herself, this moment meant something deeper. She connected her passion for cooking to her larger theme of self-acceptance and vulnerability. Perhaps sharing her story with Rosa would bolster her confidence further. Rosa arrived with a sunny smile, instantly transforming the atmosphere. They worked alongside each other, bantering amicably while laughter punctuated their culinary harmony. Sarah felt a surge of admiration ignite. She thrived in Rosa's unwavering support. "Are you ready for the meeting?" Rosa asked, momentarily pausing from folding a dish towel to offer her friend a knowing glance. "Ready as I'll ever be," Sarah replied, her voice steadier than she felt inside. The comfort of their shared moments encouraged her resolve. She couldn't escape the flicker of fear regarding how Henry would react, but now she was prepared to approach him with clarity. During the brief lull in their cooking, she pulled out her phone, glancing at the latest comments on her blog. This had become a lifeline, a communication channel where readers shared their experiences, some echoing her own struggles. Feeling the positive energy reigniting within her, she read affirming notes from individuals who found solace in her honesty. For the first time, the thought of validation from others outweighed her need for acceptance from Henry. Driven, she returned to her preparations, infusing her lunch with vibrant flavors, methodically pointing out the significance of each ingredient to Rosa. This share wasn't just about the food, it was about identity, growth, and breaking free. Perhaps opening herself up completely, flaws included, could expand her reach, bridging connections beyond mere surface interactions. Time slipped into the background as they plated the meal, laughter harmonizing effortlessly in the air. With each bite of their creation, Sarah felt her resolve crystallizing further. They paused, soaked in the delightful dish as their laughter melded into comfortable silence, a moment rich with contentment. With the lunch done, she knew it was almost time. The meeting loomed, a volcanic eruption of contrasting emotions nestled in her stomach. Gathering herself, she turned to Rosa and let a breath escape, merging anticipation with empowerment. "I will show Henry the new me," she declared, determination igniting her voice. "Exactly," Rosa replied, a supportive smile radiating warmth across the room. "Just remember, you define your worth. No one else does." The seconds ticked away until it was finally time to go. Sarah grabbed her things, the mental outline of conversation flashing in her mind like a flickering neon sign. Every fear had led her to this moment, a true confrontation with her past self, and with Henry. As she moved to open the door, she hesitated for a split second, a quiet voice reminding her of the stakes. Would her courage withstand the storm she was about to face? She gripped the doorknob firmly, waiting for a fleeting moment that lingered like a tightrope walk between bravery and doubt. Taking a deep breath, she stepped outside, heart racing, with the buzzing energy of possibility enveloping her, but as she made her way toward Henry's place, she couldn't shake the feeling that something more was hiding in the shadows, a revelation that could change everything. Would it simply be a conversation to validate her? Or would she uncover deeper truths that altered not just her relationship with Henry, but with herself? The door creaked open, echoing through the quiet hallway as Sarah stepped into Henry's home. The familiar scent of his cologne mingled with the faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Her heart raced, a metronome of anticipation marking each pulse. This was not just a meeting, this step forward was about reclaiming her identity, a challenge that threatened to unravel her in the presence of her past. Henry appeared from the kitchen, his expression shifting from surprise to curiosity. That fleeting moment gave Sarah a glimpse of vulnerability behind his confident facade. Was he as composed as he appeared? Or was he merely as dissectable as she had often felt? "Sarah," he greeted, his tone a mixture of concern and curiosity. "I didn't expect to see you today. Is everything all right?" "Actually, I wanted to talk," she replied, fighting the tremor in her voice and holding his gaze. The core of her resolve was awakening. Today wasn't just about confronting him, it was about shifting the narrative framed by their past. "Sure, come in," he said, gesturing to the living room. The couch seemed to loom like an altar of sorts, one where past grievances could either be excised or exacerbated. With cautious steps, they sat across from each other, the air thick with unexpressed truths. Sarah fidgeted for a moment, fingering the edge of her sleeve, a subtle reminder of her newfound strength. Somewhere in her heart, a voice whispered that she would finally unravel the bitterness and pain for something greater, closure or clarity. "Before I start," she began, centering her thoughts, "I want to thank you for everything you did for me. The path I've taken, the stories I've shared, the growth I've experienced, it all seems to be rooted in your influence." The honesty stung, yet something inside her craved this acknowledgement. Henry's brow furrowed, his silence demanding acknowledgement. In that pause, Sarah could almost see the gears turning. His perspective shifted, likely wondering what revelations lay ahead. "I need to be candid about what I've been holding on to," she pressed on, her pulse quickening. "The reliance I used to have on your approval, it blurs the lines of self-worth. I realize now how suffocating that was." Each word hung between them like damp fabric, oppressive and heavy, but necessary. "I didn't mean to. Are you listening?" she interrupted, surprising even herself. There was a newfound aggression surfacing, and she welcomed it. "It's not about blame, it's about empowerment. I can't allow our past to tighten its grip on who I am today. I refuse to be a reflection of what you want, or to spend another moment chasing validation." Henry shifted, those familiar defenses rising. She sensed it in the tightness of his jaw and the way his hand clenched into a fist on his knee. For a moment, she thought he might retreat into distant politeness, but, unexpectedly, his eyes softened. "I want you to be yourself, Sarah," he replied slowly. "That's why I never pushed you." His admission seemed to hover in the air, confessing an awareness she hadn't anticipated. What was Henry truly afraid of? Then why didn't you show it more? She pressed, realizing this was a dance they'd both avoided for too long. The answer loomed, heavy with unexpressed hopes and buried feelings, yet now teetering on the edge of revelation. "I didn't want to stifle you," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "But perhaps, in my fear, I ended up suffocating myself." The delicate truth split the moment wide open, forcing Sarah to confront the untamed emotions that coursed through her. The silence that followed was oppressive, but it sparked something within her, an opportunity for further exploration, deeper dialogue. In this pivotal moment, Sarah comprehended that her journey didn't solely hinge on escaping shadows. Instead, it was about diving into complexity, challenging both her and Henry to address the layers beneath their intertwined stories. As the conversation unfolded, she noticed the subtle unraveling of his carefully crafted armor, revealing raw vulnerability. "What if I told you that I'm still figuring it out?" she asked, shifting the narrative focus. "It's not just you who's afraid to be real." The air between them crackled with unresolved questions. Whatever shield Henry had erected began to show cracks, allowing deeper barriers to surface. She could feel the weight of another shift on the horizon, one that could define their connection altogether. Would they continue to untangle their histories or retreat into the comfort of their set roles, forever replaying the past? As Sarah stared into Henry's troubled gaze, a revelation simmered, a fear replaced with curiosity, possibility, and complexity. Could they both conquer their inner battles and pen a new story, together or apart? The truth danced just out of reach. One conversation could morph them into something entirely different, but there was still something Sarah hadn't said, a secret waiting beneath the surface ready to disrupt everything they thought they knew. What lay ahead could either bind or free them both. As the conversation between Sarah and Henry intensified, the weight of each unspoken word formed a palpable tension in the room. Sarah found herself at an intersection, balancing on the edge of vulnerability and empowerment. Each point she made seemed to crack through the facade of their shared history. "I've spent so long trying to live up to an image you and my father set for me," she admitted, her voice steady. "But what I realized is that this journey isn't just a rebellion, it's about claiming my identity. Henry's brows furrowed, yet there was a flicker of understanding in his eyes. You're right. Perhaps I've been so focused on protecting you from disappointment, I stifled your potential. His voice took on a gentler note, an acknowledgement of the genuine fear that had underpinned years of tacit disapproval. As Sarah absorbed his response, a realization smoldered within her. Henry's apprehension did not derive solely from malice, it came from a concern for her welfare, blurred by societal expectations. Yet it was time for her to carve a new narrative, not just for herself, but for the legacy of those around her. Which is why I've partnered with Rosa, she continued, emboldened. We're creating something authentic, blending tradition with innovation. I want to inspire others, to show that it's okay to struggle, to fail, and to evolve. We're committed to telling real stories. This declaration hung in the air, and in that moment, Sarah could almost feel the weight of the world shift. Not just her world, but the one where Henry resided, too. The dynamic between them had begun to thaw, softening the hardened edges of expectation. Your blog, it's been garnering attention, hasn't it? Henry queried, interest peaking. I've heard whispers in our circles. Yes. It's a reflection of our honest culinary journey, not just about food but about self-acceptance, she pressed. It feels liberating to create without the sting of judgment insinuating every dish. He regarded Sarah closely, as if endeavoring to peel back the layers of her transformation. It takes courage to be authentic, he mused, genuine admiration creeping into his voice. Beyond the image of privilege, you're working towards something meaningful. That's impressive. Sarah felt a rush of pride surging through her. This moment crystallized her growth. She had transformed from the paralyzed millionaire's daughter into an emerging voice in the culinary world, one driven by an insatiable desire for authenticity and connection. I want to keep evolving, Henry. And for that, I have to be honest, not just with you, but with myself. So I need you to support me, not just as someone from my past, but as a potential ally in my future. Henry leaned back, a thoughtful expression on his face. You're stronger than I ever realized, he admitted, his voice quieter now as if acknowledging her evolution had begun to stir something within him too. Just know that I'm here to support, but you must pave your own path. That's all I've ever asked for, Sarah replied, her heart swelling with newfound clarity. And I choose to shape that path with Rosa, who believes in this as much as I do. Together, we'll create a mark that isn't defined by privilege but by passion and originality. The exchange marked a milestone, a profound engagement that would forever recalibrate their relationship. No longer was she defined by her lineage, but emerged as a formidable individual ready to navigate the culinary landscape on her own terms. Later that afternoon, the connection with Henry transformed into a silent promise of support, and as she departed his home, a renewed sense of purpose infused her veins. Stepping into the sunlight, Sarah grasped the potential that awaited her, her own identity, embraced, enriched by the bond she had formed. She was carving a niche that honored her past while propelling her into a future paved with her own passions. The kitchen, once a place of chaos and expectation, felt like a vibrant sanctuary once again, now rich with opportunity. As she stepped inside, Rosa was already setting up for their next video. How did it go? Rosa asked, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. I think we finally broke some walls, Sarah declared, adrenaline coursing through her. Henry sees me now, not as just a daughter trying to uphold a legacy, but as a creative force of my own. Rosa beamed, embracing her friend. Then let us seize the moment. Our next video can reflect this breakthrough. It's not just about food, it's about connection, the journey, and celebrating authenticity. As Sarah prepared for their next culinary presentation, she felt a solid confidence settle into her bones, a recognition of her worth independent of societal expectations. It was a revelation that had successfully ignited her spirit. She was not merely a relic of her family's empire, instead, she was a powerful creator, ready to share her story, her flaws, and her culinary adventures with the world, alongside the passionate rhythm of someone she respected deeply. this moment was only the beginning. Embrace your own transformation now, don't wait another second. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support helps us reach others who need these stories. Comment your reactions and theories about Sarah's remarkable ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Show your passion and commitment today.